Lyle DeLeone has always had the mentality of a hustler. Having grown up with a weak, drug addicted mother and an ignorant, misogynistic father, she has to learn early on to protect herself and handle her own. Unfortunately, her ways cause those around her to deem her unlovable. So it was no surprise that when she met the handsome Rashawn, she quickly snatched him up, hoping to prove that she in fact can be loved by a man. Married life with Rashawn isn't bad, but it isn't good either. Lyle has no issue with this until she's thrown into the path of the man to see, Glockman, who makes her feel all the things she should and shouldn't. Glockman is a charming, kingly, suave alpha who, like Lyle, is a go getter. And during a rather traumatizing upbringing, he was forced to get out and get that bread the only way he knew how. And although a gangster tried and true, Glockman is no stranger to being burned by the opposite sex. However, that doesn't deter him in the slightest upon meeting the beautiful, sexy, but hardened and very married Lyle. And their attraction to one another causes issues in more ways than one, forcing them to constantly reevaluate their union. And this love story, laced with betrayal, plenty of lies, background lovers, and mayhem, find out if Glockman can crack the hard shell Lyle has wrapped herself in, or if her toughness, lies, and his own personal dramas will keep them apart. Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back to the show. So we are here. I don't think I haven't done Shvonne Latrice in a while, but y'all know I love her. Now, I'm just gonna be very transparent. This is a book about four sisters. I'm really only interested in Lyle's story. I can't lie to you. I've said this before. As much as I love Siobhan and her writing, the side stories, or like how there are so many multiple stories and players, it gets on my nerves because I focus on one thing at a time. Like I can keep up with the story and what's going on, but with so many people having like their own point of view, I just like I don't care. They're not important enough to the story for them to have their own point of view. But that's her style of writing. But she makes a great story as well because it's just like I think I've mentioned this before on other reviews of her books that I've done, or it might just be the one. But anyway, um, it gives you great information because you could be reading a story like, I wonder what's their story. She gives that to you. So if you're a person that likes that, like you want people's stories that are like kind of B characters, she's great for that. So I do want to mention like she's amazing with that. It's just I only care about one couple in the book. So you're probably going to hear it like as I'm reviewing the book, but let's jump right into it. So we have four sisters, like I said. There's Lyle. No, I believe Joey is the oldest. So there's Joey, Lyle, Troy, and then Bryce. But the way the book starts off, Lyle is running like an underground strip club because the idea of having a strip club is her idea. That's her baby. But her sisters go into it with her because they want to support her, and they, I guess, basically it's just like, yeah, whatever, I'm down, this is what you want to do. So she's like the quote unquote boss of the club, and then Joey is the bartender, and then Troy was covering the door. So one night they're robbed by two guys, and at first, Lyle tries to act like she doesn't know where the money is. She's like, I don't know what she's talking about. And she's hit in the face with a gun. So they give up the money, and she goes across the street. Like, one guy tries to play the hero. Like, he tries to run up to one of the guys with the gun, and he's killed. So she goes across the street to a bar to have a drink. And this guy approaches her, like, like, damn, what happened to you? And she kind of gives him like a half ass explanation. And so he offers to take her to get a gun and, to practice shooting. It's like, you need to protect yourself out here. So, she takes him up on the offer, like, okay, I'll meet you back here tomorrow. So when she goes back over to the quote unquote club, she gets into the car with her sister. And they're like, where did you go? And she's like, did the police say anything? Did they ask y'all anything? And, they're like, we didn't tell them anything, so don't worry about it. We're introduced to Quandreas, who is being released from jail. And he's anxious to get home to his girlfriend Kelby and their son Mars. So he has his friend Poe drop him off, like, drop me off at home, let me spend time with my girl, and take a shower and basically just be home for a second, and then I'll catch up with y'all later. When he gets home, he finds Kelby in the bed with another man. Like, he didn't actually see them having sex, but the guy jumps up out of the bed, and then he sees her covering her naked body. So it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out what's going on here. So he beats the guy's ass, and then looking at Kelby, and her only explanation is, they were saying that you were going to get 20 years. What was I supposed to do? Like, he said, bitch, you didn't even wait. Like, he was only in jail. He was not in jail that long for you to immediately, what, like a couple months, if even a month? I can't remember exactly. And he's like, the trial haven't even started yet. Like, he wasn't sentenced to anything. It's just like, could you at least wait till the trial is over to even see if I was going to get off first before you just automatically find you a new nigga? And so thankfully their son wasn't there. Kelby had actually sent him off with her mom to get ice cream and do some other shit. And so, needless to say, they're done. She doing all that hooping and hollering, I love you. So what does that mean for us? Like, girl, you was not thinking about that. And if you was gonna try to play the field like that, at least, like, why are you doing it in your own house? Let's talk about that. Like, you're not even smart with it. Like, okay, I could see you saying, like, yeah, that's my nigga, but he about to be gone. Like, I need to secure another bag. But why you do it at home though? Like, you couldn't meet up with him nowhere, no nothing. Like, you're not even smart about it. But anyway, like I say, yeah, they're done. Flash forward, it's 4 years later. Lyle, excuse me, now has an official co-ed strip club that is named Fantasy, and it's designed to look like it's underwater. When I first read this, I was like, that sounds so dope. I don't know if this is an actual thing, but Shvonne did that. I was like, somebody needs to take this idea and do something with it. I've never been to a strip club. I want to go to one just to see. It's like, you hear about the atmosphere, but I'm also not a people person. So to think of being around all those people, yikes. But anyway, she's now running this strip club. Like, all four sisters have ownership in it. But she's now running it with just Troy and the younger sister Bryce. Now, I and I swear I read it twice, unless my mind is just skipping over it. Like, what do we want to call it? Like the prequel? There's no mention of Bryce, I do not believe. But it's like 4 years later, we now have Bryce and Troy who are running it with her because Joey is in jail. Joey decided that she wanted to be the definition of a ride or die chick and took a charge for her husband Dennis, which is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I'm like, ain't no, you taking a charge for a nigga? Why? And which is crazy because it's like, the nigga don't even be answering her call. See, that's another thing. I mean, nigga, you not answering my calls, talking about you got to go out here and get this money. Like, man, whatever. But while she's in jail, she expects, like, her portion, like the money that she would get, like if she was actually out and working for the club, that goes to Dennis. Like, they have to pay Dennis, and Dennis is just living his life. Like, he don't take her calls, he won't go and see her for real, but he's just out living life. So they just know that he's cheating, but Joey won't hear none of it. She don't want to hear none of that. And I was just like, oh, okay. But Lyle is also married to Rashawn, the man that, took her to get the gun to protect herself from being robbed. They're not really like in love. It's not like a good marriage. It's kind of like, he's there and I guess that's okay. And everything she says, he kind of like goes along with it. He don't really argue with her. Nothing. He's just there. Like he's literally just, he's like a piece of furniture. He's just there. Um, So she is having problems with her club. Like they're barely floating above water because recently, like their mother came back into their lives, claiming she's a different person and she wanted to make things right with the girls. Um, because their father always wanted a son, hence why they have quote unquote male names, like male identified names. Um, so when their mother got pregnant with Bryce and Bryce turned out to be another girl, their father left. Like he literally, I'm like, just because they aren't the gender you want, you left your four daughters and just like took off. And so after that, after their mother had Bryce, she like left as well and turned to drugs because she was so depressed about this man running out of her life because he didn't want to take care of daughters, which is the dumbest shit I've ever. I'm like, oof, thank God for my parents. And so the father's sister, Connie, steps in like after the mom takes off, and she has raised these four girls. So, they're real close to her. And recently the mom came back, claiming that she's clean, she's a changed person, and she wants to have this relationship with them. So Lyle welcomes her with open arms into the club, and like her mom took classes, and uh she, what was it, like a tax preparer. So Lyle let her do the taxes for the club. And she's trusting that she's actually taking care of business until she gets a letter from the IRS like, your taxes, you haven't paid them. And she checks her account and come to find out her mama done ran off with the money in the account. So she had to take the money that they had like in another account, like that's specifically for the club, to pay the IRS, to keep them off of their back. And now she's, I think what, they were running out of liquor, running out of food. So it's just like they're barely making it. And when she tells Rashawn this, he suggests that she links with his boss, Glockman, who is looking for a business to, excuse me, quote unquote, invest in, to launder his drug money because he's supposed to be one of, if not the biggest drug dealer in California. So at first she's like, no, absolutely not. But Rashawn assures her, like, he's legit in that way. Like, he's just looking to clean his money. He's like a good dude or whatever. And besides, what other choice do you have besides doing this? And so, when she thinks about it, she's like, okay, you're right. So he sets up the meeting. So when they get there, Glockman is Quadreus. He done stepped up his game, all that type of stuff. He's that guy now. And so Lyle definitely like what she sees, and she don't even like Rashawn like that for real. So, but she also doesn't know what his what is it? Like his position in Glockman's gang is either. It's like she knows that her husband sells drugs, but she also knows that he's not up on the food chain, if you will. So when Glockman basically like dismisses him and tells him to get out of his face and like go find somebody else, they got some work for you to do, she's even more turned off by her husband. Like, you just let him tell you what to do like that? Like, really? Like, ugh, bitch. Like, basically, it's like how she's looking at that man. Like, I'm really married to a whole bitch out here. And this is basically what Glockman says as well. Like, he's flirting with her, like, pretty soon you gonna be my woman. And she's like, I got a husband. And he's like, you really don't. You ain't got a husband. You got a bitch. So they're flirting, and he tells her, I'm gonna come by, look at the club, see if it's something that I'm interested in and will actually want to put my money through. So the next night he shows up, they're still flirting, and he decides, I think he always knew that he was gonna, use her club anyway. Um and he tells her, I'm gonna take you from your husband. You might as well get a divorce right now and let that be what it is. And they have like deep conversations. Glockman even tells her, because they share, uh what is it? Is it trauma? Would you call it trauma bonding? About their mothers. Like, both of their mothers was on drugs. Glockman's mother was actually a prostitute, and he grew up in a whorehouse, and he was actually like molested as a child by the women in the whorehouse. Because his mama was so busy like running after her pimp and making sure she made him happy, she really neglected him. And so the women of the whorehouse bribed him with food to make him sleep with them, and he basically did what he had to survive. And now he's still looking out for his mama. Like, he put her in a facility because she's still an active drug user. Um, but she's just so wild. And the latest facility that he put her into, she got kicked out because of her wild behavior. So he moves her into his own home and hires like a personal nurse or caretaker to look after her to get her clean. And through all of that, him and Lyle are hooking up, they have sex. It's like they're building a relationship, but she is also married. So he's like, pretty soon you're gonna have to get a divorce, you're gonna have to leave this nigga and be done with him. And she kind of like teeters on the fence until he decides that he gonna stop messing with her. Like, I'm not gonna keep sleeping with a married woman, especially when I'm telling you that I want you and you're not like reciprocating the feelings. Like, I'm not finna play side nigga, especially not to my worker. What I look like playing side nigga to this bum ass nigga? And so at some point she finally does tell Rashawn, like, it's over. And he like, what? Oh, but the kicker is though, like, while she was doing business with Glockman though, Rashawn, he basically pushed her into his arms, like almost propositioning Lyle to Glockman so he could get a better position in the gang and like get more money. So after he did that, anything they could have ever possibly had was done for anyway. So she tells him, I want a divorce. And at some point, Glockman kidnaps the nigga and offers him a lawyer. Like, you got a choice. You can pick this one or this one. Call him right now, set up the meeting, and get this divorce handled. But when Rashawn goes to meet with the lawyer, baby, I'm gonna say it anyway. The gag is they were never married. So this whole time that they've been walking around with these wedding rings on and going on in life as a married couple, never married. Lyle never filed the paperwork. They had a ceremony and everything, but technically they were never married, giving Yandy and Mendices. Very much Yandy and Mendices. So when he finds that out, Rashawn is pissed. Like, her sneaky ass. And so Also, Glockman, his best friend Poe, who had picked him up from jail, the boys that he ride with, that was his homie. He got shot a while back, like in broad daylight, um, in like a robbery situation. So Glockman is very successful. Like, he has a lot of people in his back pocket, including police officers, FBI. He has people everywhere. And so he's been having the police look into it, like, to get him camera footage of what happened that day. So it's just like, as soon as he find out who killed, I want to say it's his best friend, he on their ass. Also, while Lyle is like doing this with her club, Glockman has another friend. His name is Toddy. Toddy has a girlfriend named Siren. Siren also, like, she has a, what do you want to call it? Like a competing strip club that she's trying to open and compete with Lyle, but it's really like not on her level. And at some point, Siren steals one of her dancers, and it's like she's always inside the club looking at how Lyle does her club, and is basically mimicking what she's doing. But then Siren also threatens Lyle at one point, like, I know what's going on over here at this club. And so, of course, she runs into Glockman, like, this girl is saying this. So Glockman goes and checks Toddy and, like, why do your girl know my fucking business? Like, know what I'm doing at the club? Because, what was it? Siren threatened to snitch. Like, I know they're laundering money through that club, and I'm gonna tell unless you do this and this. And so, of course, Glockman, like I said, goes back to him, like, why does she know my business? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know why she would know that. It's like, nigga, you were part of this crew. You almost like my right hand man, and you out here running your mouth. Ain't no other way for her to know that unless you saying something, because my girl ain't talking. And so, that causes like a rift between them. Oh, how could I forget about his baby mama? Glock's baby mama, Kelby, she's like still in the picture, quote unquote. They don't mess around with each other. Like, after he caught her in the bed with old boy, never touched her again, barely talked to her. It's really like a high and by situation, or if it's pertaining to Mars. But she also has a daughter, because her cheating with old dude, she ended up getting pregnant, and so she has a daughter. And so Glockman, like, whatever he does for Mars, like, he does a little something for her too. It's not as much, but he gets her stuff too. And sometimes when he picks Mars up, he'll take her out for ice cream, or he'll take her with them on activities, unless like Kelby is in her feelings and won't let her go. So he's real nice to the little girl. So, the way this book ends, we have Glockman finally getting that camera footage, and it's Lyle. So he shows up at the club pointing a gun at her, like, tell me that's not you on this camera. Tell me you didn't kill my homeboy. And so it just ends with her crying. So let's go over to Troy. Troy has a boyfriend and a daughter named Darling. And like, they have their own little family, they're cute or whatever. But remember I said that the strip club is co-ed. So there's a dancer named August who she has a little thing with. Like, at first it just seems like they be flirting or whatever, but you could tell she pays extra close attention to August. So it slips out that, what, like a year or two ago, or like, it been some time since the last time she slept with him, but they did slip up, God, and slept together. So they doing this whole little back and forth thing. And anytime like a woman shows extra attention to him, because he even had got a girlfriend who worked in the club, and she was hating. It's like, bitch, you got a whole boyfriend and a daughter. Why you won't let this man be great and like basically move on with his life? Because it's like, okay, you're not gonna admit that it's something there between us, and you just gonna keep bullshit. So I'm gonna go on and do my own thing, and don't worry about it. And so that's basically the whole part with Troy. Troy got a boyfriend and a daughter, but she got her own little thing going on inside this club. Now let's go to Bryce. Bryce is the youngest sister, and while she works in a club, she really doesn't work in a club, and she wants to do her own thing. Now she has a boyfriend named Keon, but Keon is locked up. Um so she basically out here doing her own thing. So she hooks up with this guy named Jake, who she's been spending a lot of time with. She basically creeping around with him on the outside, and he's also her business partner, where they're doing quote unquote private parties. So they get girls from the strip club and get them to perform at private parties. So at some point at one of them parties, it was for like a rapper, and one of the dancers, um, she's attacked and raped. So she goes to Lyle and says something to Lyle, and Lyle gets in Bryce's ass like, this is your business avenue that you said you wanted to take. You are in charge of this, so you need to take care of this, because the girl is threatening to go to the cops and sue her and get them arrested, because it's like, even though it didn't happen at the club, this falls under the guise of the club because it's supposed to be an extension of the club. And technically it's not, because Lyle is like, that's something that Bryce and that nigga Jake was doing on their own. But really, when you get in the eyes of the court, they probably not gonna see it that way. So but then, so while Bryce and slash Lyle are dealing with that, Keon gets out of jail. So it's basically like the same situation again, like with Glockman. He gets out of jail, and as he's riding with his homeboy, because he was trying to surprise Bryce, he didn't tell her that he was getting out. But when they pull up to the gas station, or no, they're like driving past the gas station, but he sees Bryce and sees her like in that nigga car. Like, he can tell it's some funny shit going on. So he has his friend like whip up in the gas station, and they kind of have a like this blow up scene, and he cusses her out and was like, "No, I know what you doing, and you on that fake and phony shit. Fuck you." So at one point in their relationship, Bryce and Keon, he cheated on her, and that resulted in an outside baby. So at first he was paroled to Bryce's apartment. I think it was like Bryce slash their apartment, but he gets that reversed to his baby mama's apartment. So now he's staying there with her and the baby, and it's basically fuck Bryce at this situation. So, child, whew, that was a lot of drama for the first book. And that's another thing about Shvonne. Like I said, like, the book is jam packed with good information, but I really only care about the main couple. But that's just me, though. But I was just like, I didn't understand. I'm like, Bryce, but she is also the youngest, so I guess she gets away with it, saying she's young and dumb. It's just like, but you know what type of nigga you got. Like, why would you play with that like that? And I think that was also the thing of her still kind of like, okay, you did this and I accepted you back. So the fact that I did this, like, basically this is my one off. Now we're even. And Keon is like, nah, bitch, I don't see it like that. And that's another thing that people never will, but it's like a tale as old as time. Women need to understand that just because you're willing to forgive and you're willing to take that nigga back as many times as he fucks you over, don't be like that's reciprocated. If a man chooses like, bitch, I'm not putting up with this, he has that right. Like, that's your fault that y'all decide to stay. And I hate to say fault, like it's a blame game, but it's just like, bitch, you cannot be mad at me and try to force me to stay and deal with some bullshit just because you did it. That's your fault, not mine. But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different day. Peace and blessings, my beautiful people. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next episode. Because actually, what I'm trying to do, because I think, 2 episodes ago, I said I had new days where it's Monday and Thursday now where I would be releasing episodes. But actually, because once again, oh my God. I try to plan things, but it never works out the way I try to plan them. So I'm like, when it comes to Christmas, I did one, like, I guess, quote unquote, Christmas story in the month of December, and that was Aaron's gift. So I'm trying to do a book every day this week so I can get to Shvonne's new book, which is like a Christmas book. And I think I have one more in my library. And I want to read them and get it released before December is over because they're Christmas stories. And I tried to do this last year where I wanted every book that month to be a Christmas book, and I didn't do it. Okay. I know I'm like really talking a lot, like blabbering, but that's also like how it went with my Christmas shopping and Christmas decorating. I I say like the year before, like, oh, I'm gonna do all this, I'm gonna do all that, and it gets to be that time, and I ain't did none of what I said. So I hope I can go into the new year planning better and doing what I said I was gonna do. Okay, that's it. Peace and blessings, my beautiful people. Bye.